All right, everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil. And we finally got information last night, at the time of recording anyway, it's last night, talking about the Andor era. A lot of information was thrown at us. We got almost all of the kits were revealed at one time, which is just crazy to me. We will not be covering every single kit. I will briefly show certain things, primarily wanting to talk just about the general overview of the update, talk about some of the information that Capital Games gave us. And, you know, I think they answered a lot of questions that I think they needed to answer. There's a lot of communication here that I think was good. My one, again, we're trying to be, criticized fairly. A lot of this information should have been shared in the anniversary update. A lot of this stuff I felt should have been shared 3 months ago. Now, I think sharing it is good because it's providing some stability, some framework to things. There are some unanswered questions that I would like to be answered that were maybe uncovered, not covered, but it's definitely a step in the right direction to give us the blueprint for the era, to talk about the changes and show us some of the things that they've done to, I think, improve this new system that they've created. So we're going to get into that, guys. Really appreciate everybody. Give me your feedback below. How excited are you for this era and the changes that are coming? Again, as you guys know, I love Andor. I think it is the best Star Wars show that we've ever gotten. So I am extremely excited for this. That does not mean that I'll be wailing on these characters. As you guys know, we don't wail on this channel. We get the episode pass, and that's, the extent of things. I would love to be able to wail on every single one of these characters, but that's just not in the cards for us on this account. So let's get in here. Let's talk about the Andor era. So we're going to switch over to the screen capture. There we go. And so the first thing I did want to cover here is just the characters. So in about a week, we will be getting Kleya. Then we'll get Vel, Cinta. And notice the order there. Kleya, Vel, Cinta, they are all rebel fighters. They all kind of, will all kind of fit in together. So I do like that we're getting those characters. Then we get Dedra, Major Partagaz. Then, alongside the release of Major Partagaz, we will get Cassian Andor Undercover, who is the journey guide character for this era. And then after that, we will get the droid enforcer, the KX enforcer droid. So what I appreciate about this, again, is very similar to last year where we got Maul before we got the final character. The same thing is going to happen with Cassian, where we'll be getting him, and he will fit in with, Kleya, Vel, and Cinta. So I think those are, again, solid. We'll be very curious to see kind of how all of this plays together, but there are some changes that they've talked about where I think this system will give us a much better feel for how these characters will operate in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Again, we're not going to get into all of the kits, right? We're not going to get into every single kit here, and they couldn't even fit all of them into the game. So, as you just go through this, they couldn't even fit all of these characters into one thing. Like, if you go on the forums, you'll see that the new KX droid is in its own post because there was too much information there. So where I want to spend more of our time is just talking about the, information here and some of the stuff. So again, they say, hey, we analyze the feedback. We are taking a conservative approach to changes. We are implementing several quality of life adjustments to reduce friction, protect players from overspending too early, and providing a clear roadmap for progression. So one of the loudest pieces of feedback was the crystal crunch at the start of the era. To address this, we are making the following changes. For the first 3 marquees of the Andor era, the era level requirements for the final tier have been reduced from level 70 to 55. Requirements for the final 3 marquees will remain at 70, as players will have more time to naturally accumulate materials by that stage. That's a solid shift. That is a solid change. I do like that. We are temporarily removing tier 8 era material bundles, era levels 80 to 95, from the store until they are actually applicable. We want to ensure players don't accidentally overspend on materials they are currently gated from using due to Zarek ability module constraints. Again, I think that's a good change. There were a lot of people who were very upset that they purchased packs that were basically meaningless at that time. I think these are both good changes to just kind of get you into the era, say, hey, you know what? These aren't even applicable to you yet. We shouldn't be offering those. Coliseum and strategic variety. We want Coliseum to feel like a place where your roster growth is always a benefit. Power scaling. Summon units will now scale based on your highest level era unit rather than the lowest. This ensures that when you unlock a new marquee at a low era level, your overall Coliseum power doesn't dip. This is a great change. This is a big deal because there were a lot of us who would unlock a character, and if you didn't have the materials right away, you almost couldn't use them because they would reduce the effectiveness of your era units. So that's a great strategy. That's a great change. I really appreciate this. Next is leader-based summons, which I actually like even more. To add a layer of strategy, the units you summon will now change based on your leader. A rebel leader will bring different reinforcements than an ISB, Imperial Security Bureau, leader, allowing for more tailored theory crafting. This is fantastic. And they, said, hey, summon units will now be available on later tiers than we had in the 10th anniversary. If the leader is Rebel Fighter, summon the units in the associated tiers. So Pao and Saw Gerrera will be in all of them. Cinta will be, I guess, tier 1 and 2, and Vel will be in tier 1, looks like. If the leader is ISB, summon the following units in the associated column tiers. So Imperial Probe Droid will be in all of them. Krennic will be in all of them. KX will be in 1, 2, 3, and 4. Partagaz will be in 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, that makes sense based on when they're going to be released. Summon units will now, again, be at the highest. Era level brought into battle rather than the lowest. Tiers 5 through 8 will now summon units. Previously, only tiers 1 through 4 did. Then they're also adding hero abilities. These are being targeted for release during the middle of the era. More information to come as details are finalized. So there's going to be some mechanic here where certain units are going to have more abilities than others. I think this is fantastic. Because one of my complaints, and I know many other players shared this frustration, is that the characters in this era didn't really fit together. And while you tried to give them tags, there are specific parts of their kit that call out certain characters or have certain mechanics at play that are not applicable. Like, think about IG-90. If Dr. Aphra is in the lead, Dark Side droids, if Boba Fett signed a Django for Asajj Ventress, Princess Leia for Stormtrooper Luke. Like, there are some very specific call-outs that I think will be able to take place in this era by allowing hey, you bring in Rebels, you're going to have Rebel Fighters. If you bring in ISB, you're going to have ISB. And feeling like you can actually use an ISB team in this era will be really good. Feeling that you can use the Rebels will be really good for this era. The one thing I'm going to ask for is there's going to be a point where Cassian, as the Journey Guide character, is going to be available with Rebel Fighters. The one caveat with this change is how much better will that Cassian team be upon his release? That will you actually be using these Empire units in Coliseum as much as maybe you would your Rebel units? Because when you get Cassian, will he jump that power rating enough that it makes more sense to use him over Imperial's, the ISB characters? So that is something I do want to keep my eye on. And again, maybe that comes into play that they need to change the way attempts work so we have more time to experiment. Because now there's going to be 2 available teams that you could potentially be using. If you only have 5 attempts, it's already pretty challenging to get good RNG. Now you're trying to get that same RNG across 2 different teams. So there is a little bit there that I'm curious on what the implementation will be. I think it will be a little bit more challenging for us to figure out the best team at times because we're not going to have all the, you're not going to have as many attempts to test things out unless you're spending a significant amount of crystals. Era challenges, more ways to play, will be introduced during the second era challenge. We'll be introducing a 4-feat system for era challenges. Each challenge tier will now have 4 distinct feats with escalating era level requirements. Cleia's era challenge will only have 1 feat per tier, but the other 5 will have 4. This provides a reason to revisit challenges as your squad grows, giving everyone, especially free-to-play more opportunities to earn rewards and engage with the new units throughout the era. I think that's great. I feel like that is a good way to implement things, right? So I think that's a solid change to add additional, feats to try to earn additional rewards. Clear roadmap. To eliminate the moving goalpost feeling, we want to be upfront with the journey guide from day one. Again, I think they tried to do this, but not as well in a forum post. So here are all the, era units. Again, Clea Marki, Vel Sartha, Sintakaz, Dedramiro, Major Partagaz, KX Security Droid. Again, the tiers here are unchanged. Era level 85, 7-star for the final tier to get Cassian to 7-star. Remember that era materials scale exponentially toward the end of the 12-week cycle. The free track of the 3rd episode pass will contain significantly more era level currency to help bridge the gap to those final levels. The squads you recruit during the era of Andor are your ticket to the exclusive era battle launching in the next cycle. Strengthening your team now ensures you're ready to secure high-value resources when the battle begins. Our goal is to have 12 era battle event runs per era, alternating between on and off weeks throughout the cycle. There will be 2 different era battles, each with different requirements. So you can assume one for Rebel Fighters, one for ISB. If I have to make a guess here, I'm envisioning Relic 10 materials will be available as rewards in this system. I just think that would make a ton of sense for them. Again, there's been a big push for additional relics in this game. Whether they require Relic 10 is a different matter entirely, but I could 100%, see those rewards added into this system to try to get people to be spending their resources to earn more of them. So that will be a very interesting kind of addition to the game. Again, era battles are a big part of it, but remember, they are something that is, after the 12 runs, is up to the discretion of Capital Games to release. And you think we've only really seen, I think, one Nightfall era battle since it sunset through those 12 events. So we really haven't had enough data to figure out how often those are or aren't going to be happening in the game. So again, those later tiers, if you're looking at those, unless you are someone really going to be getting these characters early on, probably not something that you should be looking at as a means to increase resources on. Transitions and Legacy. Following the 10th era anniversary pattern, units will move to shipments about a week after the era concludes and move to nodes on a bi-weekly cadence following that. Once the era of Andor concludes, these units will receive dedicated squad-based focused datacrons to provide extra strength in the Legacy meta in Grand Arena and Territory Wars. So, again, I'm not sure if that's going to happen with this anniversary era, but they're 100% going to be getting things for the Andor characters. They also have the whole era level conversion, which this was something that a lot of us had questions about that I think should have been shared at the beginning of the anniversary era. So, and here's where I'm going to go up to the top here is, so level 65, right? This is where you get to gear 12. But each level, like at level 67, you get one gear 12 piece. Do you see here where it says gear pieces? So at gear 12, you get, at level, say 68, you're getting one additional gear 12 piece. 69 gets you 2. 70 and 71 get you a 3rd, and all the way up. So the difference between 74 and 75 isn't just gear 12 to gear 13. You're still getting 5 pieces. So there is still added value that if you have the materials to take a character from, 65 to say 70 for the sake of argument, you could be getting additional rewards, additional gear pieces that you won't have to farm. So I think this should have been shared a lot sooner, because I feel like I don't know why they held on to it for as long as they did, but I definitely think that should have been shared with us, because I think this does shift for some players where maybe trying to, get a little bit of those gear pieces could be really helpful in the long term to save on raid currency. The era system is a living platform. While era level remains the primary driver of content mastery, these changes are designed to make the era journey toward end of era feel more structured with less pressure. We look forward to your feedback on these changes as you progress. See you on the holotables. So my kind of closing thoughts on this. I am very excited. Again, I love this era. I think it's a really good move to kind of explain some of these things. This number 2 here is fantastic. And it does give us insight that Krennic and Imperial Probe Droid are probably getting the ISB tag and can expect reworks for both of those characters, which I think is great. Those are 2 characters that really have not had a big part of the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes universe. To bring them to the fold, I think is awesome. Definitely ones that you're going to have to put on your radar to start increasing levels on. Krennic everybody has if you have Sith Eternal. IPD, me and like every other player, most people probably don't have him at Relic, so time to start working on that. But again, I think this is some very good information here. I do appreciate the, trying to explain some of the changes that are coming so you have more information going into the era. They are listening. There are still some unanswered questions here. And again, I haven't read through this entire kit reveal post if there was anything in here, but one thing I was hoping they would address is related to the, the rewards for the Cassian event. If you remember, if we switch back over to the game now, the Maul Journey Guide event, there were Kyber Lightspeed tokens in Tier 1 and Tier 2. Without mentioning them in the post, my assumption is that those will be included again. Because you didn't say, hey, it's not happening. So the assumption that we're going to have to make as players is that that is going to continue, right? So if you pull that rug from our feet, there's going to be a massive uprising. So if that's not the case, let us know now. Because there are going to be players who I think are going to base their investment level off of those Kyber tokens. So again, I'm going to go with the assumption that that is unchanged and those are going to continue because they did not mention it. And again, if they don't mention it and then they change it, I think there will be, we will be up in arms about that. But that is an unanswered part that I am looking for is, the wording there would be like, hey, confirm that this is the case or confirm that that was just for the era anniversary. The other thing that I have to say about this change, when they talk about, the characters and stuff, I have one gripe about the era system here, and that is the Maul event. Now, this Maul event ends in 7 days. There are a lot of players that I've heard from who don't really care about getting their era units to level 85 or don't want to spend the resources to get their characters to level 85. That instead what they would prefer is to get their characters to 7-star and then just go through the Maul event as they would normally. I sympathize with those players because I understand that dilemma where it's a lot, you are spending more money, it is more to get to if you're just worried about the character and not so much worried about the era level rewards. So I think one area that I would like to see them consider is, okay, Maul is, goes out of the, the era ends with, again, we've got like 6 days left, right? We've got like 6 days. And the Maul event, again, you go to the Journey Guide, you can see it ends in 6 days. What I think would be the best approach is the Maul event extends for another week before characters go to shipments, right? Before characters hit shipments, before any of them are farmable, Maul is available for all of those players who spent the money, spent the resources to get to 7-star, maybe didn't go all the way with era level units, so they didn't get the benefit of as many additional rewards in Coliseum, whether those are Relic 10 materials or Lightspeed bundles, but it still gives them an opportunity to get a 7-star Maul in that time span. I think that would be really good. I don't know what that looks like from a spending perspective of Capital Games, but I do think there are people who might not wail to get Maul to 7-star anymore because they need to go to level 85. That is just additional investment that many players don't feel like is worth it. So I think the answer would be to allow that Journey Guide event to happen for another week before anything else is farmable, but gives those players the opportunity. Yeah, you don't need to go all the way to 85, but then you're missing out on Coliseum rewards. Just some food for thought for Capital Games to continue to look at ways to improve this system and, cultivate some of that. Listen, like, cultivate some people who might stop spending some of the money that they are, because that extra $100 is going to be the straw that breaks their back. Let me know what you guys think down below. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.